always nice whenever people are choosing to spend their time with me at all. That being said, we're gonna wait for about the next minute or two, and then after that, I'm gonna get into my prepared remarks for the evening, and I think that it's going to be a good time. Currently, it is what is it? It is 3:14 Eastern Standard Time here where I am in Washington D.C. Thomas Haynes says, "Hey, hey, Thomas Haynes, bro, wait, what the fuck? Hold on, Thomas Haynes, Thomas Haynes. There's no way you're the Thomas Haynes I'm thinking of. Thomas Haynes, are you the Thomas Haynes that went to school with me? If so, this is actually crazy. You kind of look like you would be. Um, anyway, let's see here. Andrew Pearson says, "Do you believe this is the capitulation for World War III?" No. And then hyper normalization says the USA is using copies of Iranian drones and false flags around the Middle East. Oh wow, that's crazy. And then Crabsall says it's the corned pop. Yes, it is. Let me see here. Carlos Juanzo says maybe there's a link you can pin in the TikTok chat to get people over to Substack. Oh yeah. Actually, that's like not even a bad idea to be honest. Hmm. Yeah, actually, hold on. Dude, deadass, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Hold on. That was a great idea to my Substack follower who gave me that idea just now. Hold on. I'm actually gonna go ahead and do that now. Okay. Wait, is there even a way that I can oh shit. Dude, now that I'm thinking about it. Okay, wait, yeah, there we go. There we go. Dude, that was a great idea. Thank you, to my follower. Wait, actually, I wanna make sure that I give proper credit. Who said that? Carlos Juanzo said that. Yes. Thank you so much, Carlos Juanzo, for giving me that idea of, pinning my own stuff here. Um, I'm trying very hard, everybody, to, try and get all of you over on TikTok, my very engaged audience, to come and join me on my Substack Live, and, the reason for this is because, this is where I'm trying to incentivize people to go to, because obviously TikTok is now directly owned by Larry Ellison, and I don't really want to keep streaming on there if I can help it. To be quite honest, I mean, ideally, I would move all of my content over to Substack or over to something else that I just own. But yeah, I really don't want to give more money to the Ellison family or more of my time or attention. I'm sure you understand that. But I will. I will. Let me see here. Jake Do It Off says 100, 100, 100. Yeah, exactly. Um, Everett said, "Is your Substack free?" Yes, my Substack is free. The only time that I would ask people to pay for it is if you want to join my weekly pre-show that is for paid subs only, where I talk with people one on one. And that's really it. It's $5 a month, and then also like it gets you access to my archive of all the pieces I've written that are older than 30 days. Um, Let me see here. Uh, Carlos Juanzo says the Substackers feel the same, and Jake Do It Off says fuck Larry Ellison. Yeah, fuck Larry Ellison. How about that? Shadow Fresh says who owns the Substack? Yeah, I'm not saying that who owns the Substack is that much better, to be honest, because Substack is owned by a bunch of tech billionaires as well. Specifically, it's owned by Mark Andreessen, who is his own flavor of techno fascist. However, the difference is in the amount of power that he currently occupies. Larry Ellison and his family now completely own the entire US media ecosystem. I mean, like TikTok is nothing more than another arm of the empire's like what's the word? Like foghorn into your brain, right? Because now they're gonna own CNN and they're gonna own MSNBC and all these things. So whereas like Mark Andreessen to me, he's just like a billionaire, which is like not the best. Um, Everett says, "Do you write professionally?" Well, I don't know, guys. Here on Substack, you guys read my writing. Do you guys think I write professionally? Do you think that what I write is professional quality? I mean, I get paid by all these people on Substack to write, which I mean, is always fun. So I guess that makes me a professional. And I mean, I also do freelance writing and stuff. So I mean, I guess so. Um, Whatfield says that's actually fire. I might actually sub to you on Substack. You got good takes. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate you. Um, Let me see. Serpy says, "Hi, King." Hi. Uh, Jake Dudoff says, "Huge fan, by the way. I love your work." Oh, dude, thank you so much. And August Break on Substack says, "I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even know that Substack had live streaming, dude." And the thing is too, is Substack's live streaming is actually really good because Substack, unlike TikTok, actually does this crazy thing where if you go live on Substack, it will auto generate clips for you. And it generates like if you go for an hour, it'll generate like 20 clips for you. It's awesome. And then also it'll auto publish your entire live recording to YouTube just with a click of a button. Like it's way friendlier to a creator who's trying to like post everywhere. Um, M says, "What news outlets would you recommend now?" Oh, I have a couple. ProPublica for sure. The Markup, um, the American Prospect, though that's a little bit more commentary. Um, The Verge, Wired. I actually think they do really good reporting. Um, there's a lot. I mean, there's a ton. Current Affairs, I think, also is a really good mix of commentary and news. August Break says, "Give me a reason to use it for more than just reading Ken Klippenstein." Oh, using Substack? I think that Substack is really, really good if you're trying to follow a wide swath of journalists who otherwise would not have a good place to post and like make a good living on it. Like, yeah. So August, you say Dropsite has done good stuff recently. Yeah, Dropsite is like elite. I mean, they're just incredible journalists. But also there are like a lot of laid off journalists who have decided to take their beat and then like use their newfound kind of freedom in like not having to actually be tied to a certain publication to really go like mask off. Like my favorite example of this is Brian Merchant, who runs Blood in the Machine. If you don't know what Blood in the Machine is, by the way, highly recommend it. I mean, that guy is awesome. He writes all about the intersection between big tech surveillance and government. And he was a reporter, I believe, for the LA Times, and like now he just writes as a solo tech journalist. But like he is able to actually have opinions. He's able to actually like say what he thinks about the thing, as opposed to having to like kind of kowtow to the billionaires who give money to the LA Times. I think that's awesome. Matt Stoller is another fantastic guy. He runs big, and his whole thing is about monopoly. Let me see here. Carly says, "Have you seen the news about the Ayatollah yet?" I mean, I have seen a lot about the Ayatollah, but I just like don't believe it. I mean, I don't know, guys. Everyone here on Substack who's watching me, like, do you really believe that the Ayatollah is dead? I don't believe that at all. I feel like that's just a thing that Bibi Netanyahu would say to Trump to make him feel good about having struck into Iran. By the way, actually, to all the people who are watching me on TikTok, previously, when I was on my paid only Substack, when I was on my paid only chat, I mean, before this call, I was actually showing them some headlines that were like really interesting to me. And one of them was from like 30 minutes ago, where it was said that Trump is already talking to people in the Pentagon about how to like do an off ramp from the strikes. So to me, what that says is like, okay, this is clearly nothing more than just like a fucking vanity project again. And I said to my paid subs as well that like I view this way more likely than anything as just being a attempt to sort of rehash what happened last summer, where we did like weeks of strikes on Iran, and then we just said, okay, mission accomplished, it's done. Jack says, think the new round of Ayatollah dead rumors are coming from Mike Huckabee. Damn. Yeah, probably, honestly. Waffle says Substack has live streaming. Yeah, they sure do, man. A says, do you think Congress will rein in the regime? No, not at all. Congress has abdicated its duty. Mad Hatter says we are so fucked. I definitely think that we are fucked in a way. Let me see here. Hold on. I know that was it one of my okay. Rhett and Lint says audio is weird, not connected to the mic in front of you. Yeah, because my mic is on my computer and I can't I can't simulcast easily off this computer, which is really unfortunate. August Break says Israel is also now locking down on Gaza, so they're already pivoting. Yeah, absolutely. M says, can you make a TikTok with a list? Because I couldn't write them down that fast enough. Oh, sure thing, man. Let me see here. Jolly Green Josh says, hey girl, hey. Aeon Tar says, do you think 8% of Americans being anti-war with Iran and the fact that we have had 1/3 endless protests for the last decade that can easily be and the fact that we have had endless protests for the last decade that can easily be coordinated with the internet, that will end up with a big anti-war movement akin to the 60s. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We already have a big anti-war movement, basically. Colin Ketchell says this was clearly just a way to mess with the peace talks. Yeah. Let me see here. Thomas Haynes asked me how long until a tactical nuke is deployed in Iran. I don't think a tactical nuke is gonna get deployed in Iran. I don't think so. I actually, I forgot who it was that said this, but somebody said this, in a TikTok the other day that I actually really agreed with, which is that, like, I don't think nuclear war is the most, like, damaging thing that could happen in the world at this point. I think that it's just, like, the specter of annihilation that we use. Sorry, we use nuclear war as the avatar of annihilation, but I don't think that's the most deadly thing we could do at this point. I mean, I think that, like, the United States has the world's, as far as we know anyway, has the world's best anti-nuclear defense systems, period. And it's like not even close what Russia and China have. So I think the idea of like MAD as it existed in the 60s and 70s, I think is kind of irrelevant now. And while that is the case, though, I don't believe that the United States has any interest in opening the door to a nuclear weapon being used ever again. I think we know that like it's too easy to open Pandora's box and then create a lot of impetus for our enemies to then be like, okay, well then we'll just like find ways to smuggle in dirty bombs into cities in the United States. Now, granted, of course, that's been like a huge fear of the United States since the war on terror began. But like, I don't think that we would want to be the people who say to the world, actually, nukes are good again. I really don't. I don't think we have any interest in that. I think the most dangerous thing that could happen now is like us engaging in like large scale biological or chemical warfare. I think that's pretty obvious to me now. Um, Let me see here. Micah Faye says, I'm pretty good with OBS if that's the reason you struggle with silent streaming. Dude, it is, honestly. Yeah, OBS is, like, kind of annoying. Mike says, Danny Mata, but politics. Get out of here. Let me see here. August Break says, cool, we've just totally forgotten about Venezuela. Have we gotten any signs of life from Maduro since we've had him? Bro, no idea. Oh, L. Ron Hubbard is in my chat on Substack, so that's fun. Winston Angel says, "Do you think it's scary that MAGA is still defending Trump right now?" Is it though? Is it actually still defending Trump like all the way? I mean, I feel like that especially this morning after I got the news from a friend that we had struck Iran. I mean, I went and I looked at the conservative subreddits and things, and like I saw no reason to believe that they are just totally defending him. Like every single thread that I was on, actually, you know what's interesting is that every thread that I read on the conservative subreddits and on conservative Twitter about Anthropic and about Iran were pretty staunchly anti the administration. Like it didn't really matter how like pro MAGA those people were in all their other threads. Like people were not down with the idea of the government making an AI company like give them autonomous weapons. Like I was pretty floored at that. But then also when it came to Iran, dude, people were clowning on Trump like crazy on Twitter today. Like absolutely crazy. Let me see here. Uh Aeon Tar says, "Will this be another Iraq or another one and done?" I think this is a. I don't think it's a one and done, but I don't think it's another Iraq. Kuhn says, "Cap." Okay. Uh, Spy says, "Do you think Iran will counterattack on U.S. soil?" No, I do not think that we will get a counterattack on U.S. soil. That is crazy. Um, Winston Angel says, "Well, that makes me feel a little better." Oh, okay. Sarah says, "What's the vibe in the States about the Iranian attack?" I think just exhaustion. To be honest, I think that we just feel exhausted by it. Um, The tea is hot says the way you've been attacking Jasmine is disturbing and disappointing. Oh my god. Substack, let me tell you something, okay? So on TikTok, you know what I've been saying is I think that Jasmine Crockett has a bad campaign. I don't think that she is running her campaign in a way that makes people believe her. And also, I think that generally speaking, she says some really bad foot and mouth stuff that I think is really unfortunate. And I have people up my ass being like, "Wow, Corn Pop's just being a woman hater. Corn Pop just hates black women." And it's like, okay, okay, yeah. Jasmine Crockett literally said, okay, dude, one of the craziest things I've ever heard a politician say came from that woman. She said, and I mean, I'm almost positive this is verbatim. Speaking to a room full of donors in Texas, she said, if you really believe a Democrat's going to lose either way, what difference does it make if it's me who loses? Like, you know what I'm saying? Let me see here. Uh, Let me see here. Sorry. Natalie says off topic, but looking handsome today, King. Oh, thank you. Yeah, you guys want to yeah, this is my fit. You know, tan shirt, got some pleated pants. Substack, you can't see this obviously. And then I got these kind of off-white shoes and things. God, I look so short on TikTok. You can like literally tell I'm not 6 feet tall. It's crazy. Wafil says clipped. Yeah, whatever. Clip me, I guess. Um, let me see here. Kit says it does sound racist. What sounds racist? Um, let me see here. Cruz Dominguez says they slimed the Ayatollah. I don't know if that's true, man. Oh God, my phone fell. I don't know if that's true, man. I feel like that there's way too much incentive for like Trump and Bibi Netanyahu just to lie about that. You know what I mean? Um, is it a possible step to calling a state of emergency and throwing elections? The war? Yeah, it's definitely possible, but I don't really think so, to be honest. I think if we were gonna do that, I genuinely think that we would have had a lot more of a attack on Iran than just like launching some missiles at some schools. Um, let me see here. Uh, Lewis Live Denver says, "Love your content. You should come onto our radio show. Let's chat." Oh, sure thing, man. I mean, like, why don't you go ahead and send me a DM if you want me to come on? Um, oh, people are complimenting my fit. That's very nice. Wafila says the supreme leader is dead for Iran. Is this true? There's no way the Ayatollah was anywhere. That's not a bunker. Yeah, I mean, I don't listen. I'm gonna be real. I'm not gonna take any claim that the Ayatollah is dead seriously until we have like DNA testing from his teeth. Like there's too much to gain from Trump and from Bibi Netanyahu lying about that than there is for them to gain by being truthful about him having escaped. So like fog of war. Remember, Carlos Juanza says Trump would have already gone on truth and all caps about neutralizing him if they weren't lying. 100% agree. I actually think that my Substack commenter here has a great point, which is that like Trump jumps all over the attempt to control a headline, and it's true. So I think the fact that he wasn't just jumping all over himself to be like, yeah, we fucking slimed the Ayatollah, I think that's a great point. August Spring on Substack says Trump can declare an emergency suspension of the election, but it's like a bit like Michael Scott declaring bankruptcy, since even his most loyal would hesitate to do this, barring a few select psychos. I agree with this too. I think that there are plenty of politically active MAGA people who would actually lurch at the canceling of elections. I really do. I don't think that there's any reason to believe that Trump has totally sequestered them psychologically to the point where they would just like give undying fealty to him for canceling an election. Because, like it or not, I mean, in America, elections are still the primary mode of getting legitimate power. And if you come out and you say we are canceling the elections, I mean, it's just it's such a crossing the Rubicon moment. I think that for some of his allies, it would break their brains. I think they would actually have cognitive dissonance that would make them maybe blink for the first time. I really do. Um, CNN is reporting that Ayatollah is dead. Is that true? Hold on. I mean, all I'm seeing from Axios anyway is that Israel is saying that Khamenei is dead, but I'm not seeing anything that verifies that. Huh. Yeah. I mean, I'm not seeing any. Yeah, it's just like sources say. Oh, interesting. 30 minutes ago, somebody said that his body was found. What? Is that true? Oh, interesting. Uh, it said okay, but the source of his body being found is an Israeli official. Like, this is crazy. And yeah, I agree with my Substack commenter here. It says, super funny that they're reporting this, but they hesitate to confirm the school bombing because they don't trust the source. Like, let me see here. Oh, the audio isn't great. I'm sorry, guys. Hold on. Here, let me know if this is any better. Hopefully it is. What do I think the point of the attack on Iran is? I think the point of the attack on Iran is the same point that's always been the point of anything we do with the military in the United States since like 1952, which is to put money into the pockets of military industrial contractors, man. I mean, I think that's really it. Like, I don't think we actually have any real reason to engage in war like this. We're not defending ourselves. We don't really have an interest, I think, in having an Iranian puppet state. I mean, I think that by and large, the whole reason that we are engaging in a war with Iran like this is quite literally that we need more money to flow into the pockets of the people who own all the companies and make all the weapons. So, um, Ken Klippenstein is reporting, Reuters reporting that the body was found. Oh, that's pretty interesting. Wow. And Jake Duadoff says Iranian news agencies are saying that he is commanding the field despite the reports of him being dead. Interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. Wow. Um, Let me see here. T says Kalshi closed the betting market on Ayatollah Khamenei being out of office. That's so fucking funny. Um, wow. Huh. Pogger Snogger says, "Yes, King, you digging in me." Oh man, that's actually so fucking funny. Um, well, very, very, very nice, everybody. That's real good. Um, Let me see here. And Antonioni says, "I think that they're betting on Western audiences us underestimating Iran. Who is they?" Um, August Break says, Ted Cruz just tweeted a real fucking doozy to Mamdani, saying he and the Ayatollah can chant together. Jesus Christ, dude. The fucking unfettered racism of Republican Congress people never stops to blow my mind. It really doesn't, because like they love showing that they just think that anybody who is even not even like Middle Eastern, just somebody who they can say they view as Middle Eastern, right? Because it's not just the fact that he's like a Muslim, that Mamdani's a Muslim. It's like the fact that he is like a brown person, you know? Any person who they can say fits that aesthetic profile of being Middle Eastern looking, they just immediately demonize them as like a terrorist in waiting, dude. It's fucking insanity. Um, Whiskey Red says the Strait of Hormuz is closed, right? The next week is going to fucking suck. Yeah, yeah, that is definitely true. Last I read on that, Whiskey Red, the Strait of Hormuz is closed, and like 14 to 15 ships are either paused where they are, or they're actually U-turning where they are. But also, like the UK government apparently told all of its ships that the Iranian government's directive that the Strait of Hormuz is closed isn't legally binding, and they're like, yeah, just proceed with caution. So like, I don't know. Um, August Break says he's just jealous Mamdani runs a city that he doesn't have to flee when it gets below freezing. Dude, I don't think that Ted Cruz thinks that much, period. I don't really think that he even thinks enough to be jealous, if I'm being honest with you. Um, Not a third derivative says somebody made bank on call sheet. Yeah, I bet that's true. Um, Not a third derivative says, what is there to underestimate? Yeah, dude, for real. KAS says, I cannot believe that Randy Fine is still a congressman. Dude, me either, honestly. I mean, there are so many Republicans who I just can't believe are able to hold on to power. And I feel like the part of it's just because like their own constituency is not that engaged in their politics. Like they're engaged in politics, but they're not engaged in like really staying up to date with like what their Congress people do. You know what I mean? Like what they are engaged with is understanding like what the MAGA movement does in response to their perceived enemies, which are like liberal Democrats, you know? And so long as like their Congress people fall into that general cultural anti-movement, then they're like, oh yeah, I want to keep them there, right? Because like liberals need to be kept in check or whatever the fuck. Tracy says, "Are we really in a state of unknown for the next couple days?" Yeah, dude, we are. T says, "I cannot wait to see how the markets react on open Monday." I feel like that honestly, the market's going to have like a little bit of a sell off, but I don't think that it's going to crash through the floor. I really don't. Um, August Break says, I desperately want to know what the talk is like on the ground in military bases from grunts, especially closer to the action. Yeah, dude, I really do too. I want to know what people who are actually like pulling the trigger on shit. I want to know what they are thinking about all this. Like, are they down with this? Do they like this? Do they think that this is going to keep going? I don't know. Like, we certainly built up a shit ton of military assets around the Mediterranean and near the Strait of Hormuz. Like, clearly, we have the necessary hardware to do this for the long haul. So, um, let me see here. Earth Slime says this involvement is meant to test Western opinion on Israel to start proxy wars in blue states. Dude, honestly, yeah, I kind of think that. You know what? People on Substack, I think that this TikTok commenter has it almost exactly correct. That we are basically just doing this to see what our appetite is to start proxy wars on behalf of Israel. And like we're just trying to test the waters and see like what resistance actually pops up to this. I actually think that might, you know what, Earth Slime, if I had the ability to give you a cookie, I would. That's a good point. I think that might be true. Um, Gideon says the school missile strike is basically another Ali hospital. Yeah, dude. And like we killed fucking, I think it was like 60 kids in there. Just wiped them out. Wiped them out. Earth Slime says mimetic warfare is something to be looked at under a microscope. Yeah, for sure. HCR said that the average American spends 4 minutes a week paying attention to politics. Sick. Awesome. Love that, dude. Love my country, man. I do. Oh, nice. Nice. Claus and Thing says possibility Iran doesn't confirm Supreme Leader's death as to not give the U.S. reason to strike again. Yeah, I think that that's like more than possible. I think that like Iran has basically no reason to confirm or deny that the Supreme Leader is anything other than alive. You know what I mean? Like they just literally need to like not confirm that he's dead. Um, Lexa probably sure why not. Oh hey, how's your midterm election distraction war going? Oh, you know how it's going. Um, Jordan says America's just bored, dude. Yeah, honestly, yeah, I think we are just kind of bored. Um, let's see here. Apple user 565 says Israel is our colony, and we're trying desperately to hang on to the power that relationship gives us. I don't know. I just think that like I feel like that the framing of Israel as America's colony is like very weird to me because there are points where I genuinely feel like that it is a mutually parasitic relationship. I don't really feel like that Israel is America's colony so much as it is like just how do I put this? Like our enabler, just like they are our enabler. Like oh, sorry, they are our enabler, just like we are their enabler. But I don't necessarily know if I agree with Colony because Colony would assume that the state of Israel takes its orders from us, and it's just clearly not the case. Like very clearly, like there's enough tension going the other way that says that like it is much more lateral in its relationship than it is dictatorial. SB on Substack says, "Bro, 4 minutes thinking about politics per week. No wonder everyone's uncle voted red." Ugh, God, isn't that the truth? Um, Let me see here. M says calling the battle Operation Epic Surge feels like the final phase of the effective 4chan. Yeah, dude. Oh my god. I mean, like we genuinely have memed ourselves into fucking war. It's insane. August Break on Substack says, I think Israel is America's colony, but it's also the tail that wags the dog somewhat. They let us practice our worst tendencies with a degree of separation, but they also have their own direction that we tolerate for the sake of getting access to that relationship. Yeah, I agree. And this is why I was saying that like I just think that like saying it cleanly that Israel is America's colony just feels wrong because it's like it there clearly is a symbiosis that occurs here where it's like we are both able to do the worst things imaginable with each other's technology, with our money, with our political capital, everything. Like we're able to provide cover to the other. It's almost like we're like in a mutually abusive relationship, you know. Um, Sorry, everybody. I have to like Yeah, not a third derivative says it's like saying America is still Britain's colony. Yeah, exactly. I think that's another good analog as well. Earth Slime says Israel is the left Twix factory, U.S. is the right Twix factory. Yeah. Uh, 867 says we are able to do those things because they are a colony of white supremacy in the Middle East. Yeah, but again, the thing is, when you say colony, like what you're really saying there is that what you should be saying there, if you're going to say colony, is that like Israel does things on our behalf. But I just think it's very clear that like maybe that was the case at a point, but like it is not the case anymore. Like, um, Ian Schmian says it doesn't sound like your mic is working great. Maybe next time. Yeah, it's because my mic is actually on my computer, and I do not connect my mic into my phone. Um, August Break says we test weapons and tech on Gaza and we use them to manufacture consent for war, but they're also on their own bullshit. We're happy to pay for it and defend, even if we aren't necessarily directly doing it or interested in it. Yes, exactly. Jack says I think they have a similar relationship as the U.S. to the military-industrial complex, where they've been given too much power, but still at the end of the day rely on the U.S. and taxpayer money. I agree with this too. Yes, I think it's definitely worth noting that like um Israel would not survive if the United States did not subsidize it to the point that we do. Um, Let me see here. Stab Saucy Boy says, "If they were a colony, wouldn't their tax dollars be coming to us instead of the other way around?" Yeah, exactly. Um, Pan Protopsychism says, "Are you using your phone to go live? The live studio app for PC is way better." I know, I know. Pan Protopsychism. I tried to actually do a simulcast with TikTok Studio on my computer and Substack, but then TikTok Studio took like the majority of my good bandwidth for my camera, and my Substack view was like blown up to like only show this much of my face. It was crazy. And like technically speaking, uh technically speaking, I want to give priority to good camera quality and mic quality to the people who pay me, and those are all on Substack. So that's why I'm doing it. Um, SB says, I feel like we underestimate how large a proportion of the Americans who support Israel are just Christians who only care because they want the rapture to happen. Yeah, dude. I mean, like, evangelical Zionists are legitimately a scourge on American society to a level that I just don't I just don't think is hated enough. I really don't, because they have chosen to, how do I put this? They've chosen to weaponize the fear of extermination of Jewish people that Jewish people have, and like comport it through their own nefarious sort of apocalyptic worldview. And they claim that it's all being done out of this love and appreciation of Jewish people, but it's not. I mean, obviously it's not. Like they, like, you know, the smartest evangelical Zionists know that the atrocities that are committed by the state of Israel do nothing but help breed virulent anti-Semitism all over the world, and then drive the Jews who are then very afraid for their lives into the arms of Israel, which of course like creates this flywheel. And they know that that's the case, and they want it to be the case, because what they want is they want all of Israeli society to collapse into this like dogmatic barbarism, so that they do things like launch wars all over the Middle East to get the United States to the point where we then destabilize the entire fucking region. And they want, evangelical Zionists want this because they believe that eventually somebody's going to snap, somebody's going to fire a nuke, something, and then the world will end and they'll be with Jesus. And it's just it's despicable. I mean, it's the most despicable worldview possible, because it is the definition of selfish faith. It really is. It's saying, we don't care if any of you who are on this earth have any want for the rest of your life. You're all wrong. We're all right. You know, it is a moral failing of you if you can't see our vision. If you could not accept Jesus into your heart, this, that, and the other. Uh, and so because of that, you will be destroyed on our terms. You know, and to me, this is always where it's been hard to understand how they don't view themselves as playing God. You know what I mean? Because they are playing God. Like they are choosing to rush the the fate that they think is so assured to happen. And you know, with that being the case, I just wonder, it's like, how can they not see themselves as being blasphemous by trying to rush God's will there? You know, it's never made sense to me. Um, Earth Slime says doomsday cults. What they cannot destroy, they co-opt and corrupt till it destroys itself. Yeah, absolutely. Lindy Blue says, this is to continue the conversation. The military contractors are cleaning out their coffers. Yeah. Um, August Break says, it's odd because the Biden administration was all in on Israel, but for geopolitical and business reasons. But for Trump, there's a lot more of the evangelical influence. I mean, listen to what Huckabee was saying. I'm surprised that Trump hasn't announced funding for a red heifer breeding program. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Um, Let me see here. Uh, Sarah says it's not a logical process. It's literal cognitive distortion and brainwashing. Yeah, exactly. Um, Jordan says, I'm not sure if you're capable of admitting when you're wrong about things, and that concerns me. I don't think you know what the fuck you're talking about, Jordan. I literally posted a video today about being wrong about Anthropic. Dumb fuck. Um, Let me see here. Oh, hi, Barbara. How many, nice, nice. Uh, Diamond says, Corn Pop, I don't want to be here anymore. Damn. Well, I'm sorry, man. I hope that you continue to be here. Um, Let me see here. Uh, Marcus Pearson says, no new wars. Yeah. Yeah. Um, Carlito says, if the Ayatollah is dead, is the nuclear likelihood higher? Uh, no, I don't really think so. I don't really think that the nuclear likelihood is higher or lower. August Break says, I don't want to be here anymore either. Oh no. Oh no, I did not. I was not aware that I was surrounded by what was I going to say? Uh, by suicidal people. Uh, yeah, Didn't says corn pop. I need a cure for the flu. Ugh. um, L. Ron Hubbard says, pretty sure there actually was a red heifer breeding program that folks in Congress were related to somehow. Yeah, I was going to say, I was pretty sure that we did that, didn't we? Like, did didn't that? uh, am I wrong about that? Like, didn't Congress literally fund that? No, wait, hold on. I think I'm. Hmm. Oh, no, you know what it is, that I think you're thinking about, August break, is that, there have been some groups in Israel in the last year who have sacrificed red heifers, because they want to bring about the end times, which is, really crazy. Um, Let me see here. Uh, Malon Gorlami says, "Nuclear options will continue to exist until we dismantle the state." I believe that's true, to be honest, yeah. I think that, like, for the most part, that's probably true. Um M says, "When are the Iranian people gonna take back their government?" I don't know. I mean, according to Trump, like, that's, like, the end goal here, right? Is that, he's doing all this and he's striking schools and shit like that so that the Iranian people will, rise up and, decide that they want to, take their government back. I mean, what I think is, interesting is that, the US government is trying to reengage, Reza Pahlavi, right? The son of the Shah, to be, like, the leader of the resistance or something, which I think is, kinda rich personally. Um August Break says, even after we dismantle the state, because when the government collapses, I'm taking a nuke as a souvenir. I hope you do, man. I hope that you give it to me. Uh, uh, Wary Cray says, should we be scared? I don't think you should be any more scared right now than you were yesterday. Um, Existence says, thank you for all the work that you do. Appreciate it. Oh, thank you, buddy. I appreciate you too. Um, Pete Olshansky says, US will install a BB approved leader. Yeah, I think that that's like the biggest worry I have is that the United States is just going to like shove in a approved leader who's like way pro Israel, and then we'll just have like effectively like a real parasitic relationship with Israel, and then they'll have a parasitic relationship with the new leader of Iran. Um, Definitely will be very very crazy though. Okay, guys, hold on. Oh man. Well, guys, I actually am gonna read through my remarks here now. Because I didn't do this last week, and I really think it's important for me to stick to my promises of doing this, of actually reading through the remarks that I prepare for my Substack audience, and obviously all of you here on TikTok, we get to enjoy it. During this time, I probably will not respond to the chat. I'll probably just read through these remarks, and then at the end, if I have any time left over, I will respond then. So hopefully, we can all enjoy it. So here we go. A lot happened in this last month, everybody. I want to start with the last week and kind of work our way backward. This morning, as all of you know, on February 28th, the United States and Israel launched Operation Epic Fury, conducting major airstrikes on Iranian nuclear and military facilities after nuclear negotiations collapsed. Trump told the Iranian people to take over your government. Iran retaliated with missile strikes on U.S. bases across the Middle East. And of course, Congress was not consulted. Also, this week, Anthropic, the AI company that built its entire brand on safety and responsibility, refused Pentagon demands to strip safeguards preventing its models from being used for mass domestic surveillance and autonomous weapon systems. The Trump administration responded by blacklisting Anthropic from all federal contracts and declaring it a supply chain risk to national security. Within hours, OpenAI announced it had secured a Pentagon deal with the exact same safeguards that Anthropic had been asking for. ICE has also expanded its use of facial recognition technology this month in ways that should terrify you, regardless of your immigration politics. The Mobile Fortify app, which has now been used over 100,000 times in the field, allows agents to photograph and identify anybody that they encounter, with scans stored for 15 years, regardless of your citizenship status. CBP signed a $225,000 contract with Clearview AI, granting analysts access to a database of more than 60 billion scraped images, not for investigations, but for what the contract calls, quote, day-to-day intelligence work. Senator Ed Markey introduced the ICE Out of Our Faces Act to ban the practice entirely, and I am almost certain that that will fail. Block, Jack Dorsey's payments company, which owns things like Square, laid off more than 4,000 of its employees, which is nearly half of its entire workforce. Dorsey did not hide behind the usual corporate euphemisms of restructuring either. He said instead that intelligence tools had changed what it means to build and run a company, that a significantly smaller team could do more and do it better, and that within the next year, the majority of companies would reach the same conclusion and make similar structural changes. Block's stocks surged 24% in after hours trading on that news. eBay actually also cut 800 jobs the same day. WiseTech announced 2,000 AI-driven layoffs in the same week, with its CEO declaring that the era of manually writing code as the core act of engineering is over. And all throughout this month, a year after they started, the Tesla takedown protests went national, with coordinated demonstrations at Tesla dealerships continuing. Meanwhile, the Melt the Ice Red Hat movement, which invoked Norwegian World War II resistance symbolism, wearing red knit caps, which was banned by Nazi occupiers in 1942, spread from Minneapolis to Eugene, Oregon. A yarn store in Minneapolis called Needle and Skein raised nearly $400,000 selling hat patterns and donated $250,000 to immigrant housing support. Now, the reason I bring all this up is that there actually is a connecting tissue to all this, but it's not Trump and it's not AI. It's about what they represent, which is that AI is becoming the solvent that is dissolving the last membrane between state violence and private profit. Because there used to be a sort of intermediation layer that separated government coercion from corporate extraction. You know, procurement norms and regulatory frameworks and the genteel corporate language to let everybody pretend the system worked differently than it did. And that layer has now collapsed because AI has made that collapse very, very profitable. And the speed at which the consolidation is now moving has outrun every existing framework for opposing it. So let's actually just kind of like work our way through these like individual stories, right? The Pentagon was able to blacklist Anthropic and force compliance from the AI industry because there are 5 serious players in the entire market. If 50 companies had been building frontier AI models, then losing one to a political loyalty test would have been meaningless. Others with safeguards would just infill that gap. But with 5 players, the government can pick winners and issue existential threats to any individual company that refuses to comply. OpenAI stepping in to take the contract is proof of that. But the same concentrated market structure runs beneath every story from this week. Clearview AI's database of 60 billion images only exists because there's only a handful of platforms, and they centralized all of the world's photographs into a few small repositories that can be scraped at an industrial scale. Distribute that data across thousands of small interoperable systems, and Clearview's entire business model would fall apart. You don't need authoritarian ideology to build a mass surveillance state when you have data monopoly, though. Similarly, Block's stock surging as much as it did after half of its workforce disappeared isn't some abstract market rendering a neutral verdict onto efficiency gains. A handful of institutional asset managers from BlackRock to Vanguard to State Street, they all hold significant positions in virtually every major technology company and are rewarding a pattern that they want replicated across their whole portfolio. The same investors who profit from Block's workforce reduction hold stakes in the AI companies selling the tools that made the reduction possible. So when 3 firms own pieces of every company in an industry, they kind of stop caring what company wins and they just care instead about the industry as a whole maximizing their returns. Every domain of concentration feeds the others. Market concentration makes surveillance possible. Surveillance infrastructure enables enforcement, and enforcement protects the market concentration itself. It's a big flywheel. Now, what makes this worse is the feedback loop that transforms structural conditions into something that feels like inevitability, because that feeling is itself a manufactured product, right? All of this is about them saying the quiet part out loud, right? Like, and when they say the quiet part out loud and they see stocks surge, right, then all the other companies follow. And every announcement validates the next one that comes. The cascade becomes a new reality itself that is being constructed, one earnings call at a time, with every CEO pointing to the last one's stock bump as proof that the future has already arrived and that resistance is sentimental at best. The rhetorical operation that we're witnessing here is very old. Okay. Textile manufacturers in Nottingham, England ran the same play in 1811, framing their choice to maximize profit through worker displacement as a technological inevitability that nobody could stop and only a fool would resist. The Luddites, whose history has been slandered as anti-technology primitives, understood the framing was a lie. They used the wide stocking frames themselves when the output was quality work at fair wages and destroyed them when manufacturers weaponized the same machines to produce shoddy goods at starvation wages. ICE's deployment of facial recognition at protests rather than at ports of entry, where it might address actual drug trafficking, follows the same logic of manufacturing necessity. Somebody chose to build Mobile Fortify, chose to fund it, and chose to deploy it where U.S. citizens exercise their constitutional rights. Every link in that chain was a decision made by a person with a name. But this runs anathema to the American liberal story of the last 50 years. For decades, American power operated through what you might call a plausible deniability governance. The Pentagon contracted surveillance tools rather than building them. Companies sold data through chains of brokers so long that nobody could trace accountability. Employers blamed the market for choices that they made in boardrooms. Every layer of intermediation created a gap, and accountability fell into those gaps and then disappeared. Trump collapsed those gaps, and that is his historical significance, which has almost nothing to do with his ideology. He has made it so that people running the system of American life have now stopped being afraid of the consequences of their barbarism. And you might be, I think, forgiven, but for being like, oh, well, wasn't it always this way? And I mean, I think that that's fair, right? Because like the most uncomfortable version of the opposing case, what I'm saying here, like it suggests that the intermediation layer was always about protecting elites, right? Like Goldman Sachs alumni rotate through the Treasury Department. Tech executives shape the surveillance policy through advisory boards and revolving doors. Defense contractors write their own procurement rules and then win the contracts that they design. The market and the process and the institutions absorb blame for outcomes that specific powerful people choose. The membrane was always the mechanism by which that fusion operated while maintaining the fiction that it wasn't happening. So, from this angle, Anthropic refusing the Pentagon's demands is just a venture capital funded corporation making a political choice to withhold capability from the elected government and dressing it up as ethics. The Pentagon asserting authority over an unelected corporate gatekeeper becomes the public's government refusing to be vetoed by Silicon Valley's priest class. And the broader case writes itself. The old institutional framework was already captured by concentrated power long before Trump. The pre-2016 arrangement was managed decline with better manners, and the populist right actually has a governing vision, however awful, while the opposition has cultural energy without a program. National economic sovereignty, state capacity directed at working people, technology deployment governed by national interests. Next to that, the protests at Knitted Hat look like a cargo cult of resistance with no real direction or ability to seize power, even if their attempt to seize that power is the morally correct way for society to go. Except the Pentagon didn't blacklist Anthropic and open the contract to 50 competitors in a vibrant marketplace, right? It blacklisted Anthropic and handed the deal to OpenAI. They engaged in patronage. And the realignment framing collapses the moment that you look at who is actually benefiting, right? The people running the state right now are directing AI's benefits to Elon Musk's XAI, right? The 4,000 workers at Block aren't getting a call from Doge offering retraining, right? The populist right will talk all about the working class with real passion and governance for the shareholder class with real consistency. Expecting the state, and especially this one, to act against the interests of the billionaires who fund it, advise it, and sit in its inner circle requires the kind of faith that the evidence of this last week specifically and comprehensively refuses to support. And that, I think, is why, as silly as some of these protests might seem, as fickle as it might seem even, for us to imagine any sort of resistance really being against Trump at this moment, we must keep going and find new ways to organize against him. Because all of these people, all of these people who are suggesting that they have the real way forward, they know what the people really want. They're here to work on behalf of the everyman. They're all liars, right? Everybody who is around Trump and his government, they're all lying to everybody that this is what the people want. That actually it is, in fact, what is it? That it's some kind of great popular will to try to force Anthropic to work with the Pentagon, as if anybody in fucking Missouri knows why it is that it would be beneficial to them to use autonomous weapons. Like it's all bullshit because all that money flows one direction between Trump, his friends, the military and industrial complex. And while that is the case, though, while we figure out how to get our bearings together, we should expect more of this. Not because Trump is uniquely evil or because AI is uniquely dangerous, but because the incentive structure now rewards every version of what has happened this last week and this last month, really, and really this last year. And nothing in the current political landscape really penalizes any of it. And it's certainly not going to come through Congress. I mean, that's very evident by the Democrats having this piss-ass response to the State of the Union. Trump's actual achievement is that he has made it frictionless for the United States to operate as what it has been moving toward for decades, a state capitalist empire with the mask off. State capitalist in that order of emphasis. The state serves capital. The military serves the defense contractor. The surveillance apparatus serves the vendor. The executive serves the billionaire in the room. This was always the trajectory, but the old system maintained enough friction, enough plausible deniability that each individual actor could pretend that they were serving something else, like the people. And that friction is gone, and they are very glad for it. What remains is a market reacting to its own incentives with nothing left to slow it down. Every decision detailed in this in my piece here, I believe, is to the people who are making those decisions, they say it's rational, right? They say it's profitable. And that's the thing I think that people are missing as they look for a villain in all this like insane news. The villain is the structure. right? The structure does not need a conspiracy theory to function, right? Everyone just has to keep doing the math. And they're going to keep doing it because they want to keep making money. And they're going to keep telling you that the decisions they're making that maximizes their math maximizes yours when it minimizes yours at the expense of your life. Okay. Over the next few years, I expect AI capability to accelerate and market concentration to deepen. And I think that that's just going to happen because the math is going to get more obvious, right? The playbooks have proven out this week that they will spread because they worked and because the institutional guardrails that might have prevented them from working have been gutted, captured, and defunded. None of that requires a mastermind. All of it requires a market. And this is what state capitalism looks like when it stops pretending to be something else. So get used to reading headlines like the ones that you read this week, I guess. Um, yeah, so that's my piece. I will post it on my Substack as well. Um, let me see here. Oh man. Oh man. Champ asked, "Who is he reading?" I was reading me. That was me. I wrote that. Um, man, oh man. M asked me, "What do you think about Citrini's speculative Substack article?" I thought it was good. I think that Citrini's Substack article is interesting though because I'm just surprised that like the market needed a speculative Substack article in order to confront the reality of what I think the bear case of AI has been for 3 years. Like I thought that we all knew that the big risk of AI is not like, oh, what if we waste all this money on something that doesn't work? It's what if this thing works and there's no guardrails in place to actually prevent societal collapse, like actual societal collapse, like where people stop believing in society. I thought that everyone knew that, but I guess like Wall Street just doesn't think like that. I don't know. August Break on Substack says, "Thank you for taking a more structuralist approach. I'm so sick of hearing people say, oh, this is all just distraction from Epstein. No, this is it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um, let me see here. Uh, oh, people are commenting the fire emoji because they like my writing. Oh, thank you guys. I appreciate that. Um, Spy says, but communism is when no iPhone and long line. Yeah, dude, I know, right? Uh, Let me see here. Hash Brown says, so well said as always. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Existential Slop says, I need to read the fuck out of that. Oh, thanks, man. Well, I'll post it and you'll be able to read it on my Substack, okay? Fifth Dim Mycology says, the only thing I'm curious about is OpenAI. Yeah, dude, me too. I'm curious to see what OpenAI does as well. M says, right on the money. No pun intended. Ha ha ha. Thanks, man. Fifth Dim Mycology says, OpenAI said that they had the same red line, so it would be interesting to see some integrity. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe Sam Altman one bit that he has fucking red lines. I really don't. Um, Let me see here. Uh, what do you think of the creator I'm Really Important? I don't know that. Existential Slop says, is Iran a distraction? Or is there a greater point to this? I mean, I don't think it's a distraction, but I don't think there's too much of a greater point to all this. M says, Wall Street only ever thinks about the next quarter. Yes, I agree. Um, Ken says, you're a brilliant writer. Oh, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. I try really hard to make my writing worthwhile to read and to hear. That's why I decided to build my Substack page. And I think that all these people who are watching me on Substack, I think you guys would agree that it's my writing's definitely gotten better over the last couple of years for sure. Which is always fun. Um, Let me see here. 867 says only red line that Sam Altman has is slowing money down and power. Yeah, 100%. Honestly though, for the people who are being so kind to me on TikTok, where they're like, "Oh yeah, I like your writing." I can't tell you how much that how much I appreciate that, because I actually do try so hard to make my writing worthwhile, and it's really hard. There are so many good writers on Substack that I look at, and I'm just like, oh fuck, well I'm never gonna write like that. I mean, Jesus Christ. But then again, it's like sometimes I read my own stuff back, and I'm like, yeah, it is pretty good. Margot Polo says, you definitely found something more future proof than copywriting, dude. I hope so. Fifth Dim Mycology says the majority of us in the middle just care about unbiased content, and you are that, my man. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate you. Oliver Dixar Farm says, also a former copywriter here from St. Paul. Hell yeah. 867 says, keep writing. Everyone has their own niche. Yeah, hell yeah, we do, brother. Margot Polo says, it also helps that your voice is nice to listen to. Oh, thanks, man. Freely says, how do you pull somebody out of the alt-right pipeline? I think that the biggest thing you can do to pull somebody out of the alt-right pipeline is to just like really make them go a couple Ys down. Like, I think the alt-right pipeline is most potent when you're one layer deep of the Y. and you're just like, "Oh, why can't I get a date?" Or "Why is it I feel so lonely?" or things like that. And it's just like super easy for you to hit a politically motivated answer and be like, "Oh, it's because of women, or it's because of black people, or it's because of Jews, or it's because of goy slop or whatever." But then it's like, okay, but like, why would that be produced for that reason? And it's easy to get down even still, right? And then be like, "Oh yeah, it's because there's a big conspiracy," and it's like, yeah, but why would there be one? Like, what? Why would it be that and not something simpler? Like that, just like a lot of rich people want you to be distracted and angry, right? So you buy more shit. You know, I also think that honestly I had some success with a few friends by, like, really hitting them hard on that angle of, like, "Bro, you are getting duped. You're getting duped by rich people who need you to feel this way, so you buy their shit. Like, don't be a sucker." Because like, that was pretty motivating for some people, I think. Um, Let me see here. Uh, Oliver Dixar Firm says, "You're always welcome to collab with Oliver Dixar Firm." Oh, well, thanks, man. Maybe I will. Who knows? A says, "What are your thoughts on Congress reining in the regime?" I don't think Congress is gonna rein in the regime. What the fuck? I think that Congress has completely abdicated all of their duty. I don't think Congress has any interest in doing their job anymore. August Break says, "Hot take. I don't think you can pull somebody out of the alt right pipeline. They have to do it themselves. The best you can do is be there to greet them on the other side. Take it from personal experience as a former chud." Yeah, I mean, I think that this is correct. As another person who was also in the alt right pipeline for a long time, I mean, nobody pulled me out. Eventually, I had my own sort of come to Jesus moment about it. But it was totally irrelevant to anybody else in my life. I mean, it was like my own sort of moment of horror where I realized that I was actually just talking to Nazis, and that was really terrifying for me. And then it made me wonder, like, oh, how did I end up here? And then I just like didn't want to do it anymore. But I think that's true, though. I think that in all cases, like, it's going to have to start with that person wanting to not feel that way anymore. Um, and you just got to be there to like receive them, but like you don't need to let them off the hook, though. Like you don't need to just let them be like. Is it like you don't need to let them pretend like that their perspectives or that their the things that they've said or done, like, didn't happen or that they don't need to atone for them. Like, you can still hold them accountable and also be there and, like, not make them fall into a shame spiral, you know? Um, uh, Logopotamus says, "My Gen X siblings still have their head in the sand. Die Hard lives. Any suggestions?" What do they have their head in the sand about, though? Um, Fifth in Mycology says, "Geo Husar has a stance that we should stop consumerism. That's the only way to fight this bubble." Dude, I agree. I agree completely. Boo says, "Hey, dude, keep it up. Love the vids." Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate you. Existential Slop says, "How long until the legislative branch is dissolved?" We won't dissolve the legislative branch. No way. If anything, we'll just like do what Russia does, where the legislative branch is like window dressing. You know. Um, Rashizzle says, "Hey, Cornpop. Hi." Brown-eyed Kipriot gal says, "Hey, oh hi. You were in my live last week." It's always nice to see some repeat viewers. Um, what I think is crazy is on Substack. Yeah, damn, bro. I have such a low number of concurrent viewers on here compared to here. I have 93 concurrent viewers right here, and I have 5 concurrent viewers on here. This is crazy. Snat says, "Corn Pop, you are my fave." Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. August Break says, "For me, it was just a repeated, overwhelming social embarrassment of getting dunked on for having shit takes combined with hating how they reacted to the new Star Wars. Lamest ways to leave whatever works. Took a lot more time to get over the fundamental mental aspects of it, though." Yeah, dude, for sure. For sure. I definitely think, August, that it's completely real that for me, it absolutely took a lot of social embarrassment for me to leave the All-Right pipeline. I mean, I had to like you say, I had to get dunked on really bad, terribly. I had to be reminded that I had no idea what I was talking about multiple times. I had to lose public arguments with people. Um, I had to have women and men who I was trying to hit on just like tell me that I icked them out. I mean, like, yeah, it sucks, man. But it's just the truth, though. It's like you're never gonna convince somebody that it's like not socially um that it's not socially advantageous to hold a position, quite like literally socially ostracizing them for it. You know what I mean? And like Xander Daly says, "You're bi?" Dude, hell yeah, I am. Snat says, "Bi King?" Dude, yeah, gang, gang, you know? Oliver Dixar Farm says, "People have to fall far enough along with themselves to understand or agree with you. People have to have I don't know what this means. I'm sorry." Xander Daly says, "I'm gay." You are gay. Everybody, we're now in the last minute of let me see here. We're now in the last minute of my stream here. And Man, oh man, I cannot tell you just how nice it's been. As always, if you are watching me here, um on TikTok or on Substack, please leave me a rating of 1 through 10 corn cobs out of 10. If it's anything less than 7, let me know why it is less than 7. I hope that it's 10s across the board though, because I try very hard to make sure that these lives are entertaining and worthwhile for everybody. Uh, and I really can't tell you, as always, how much I appreciate each and every one of you guys joining. It always gives me so much energy and so much joy to be here with all of you. Um, M says 9, but only because today is a shitty day. Oh yeah, dude, I totally understand. Oliver Dixar Firm says glad I caught the end. I'm glad you caught the end too. M says thank you. Yeah, very, very good. Jesus, Corn Pop, you need to do more lives. This was a great yap. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I definitely need to do more lives for sure. Substack as well. Thank you guys for joining me for all this time. Miscreant says, what kind of headset is this? I actually don't know. Dweller by the Ash Trees gave me a bunch of corn cobs. Thank you so much. But yeah, guys, I really appreciate you guys sticking around, and I will see you guys next week. Okay.